Maybe you got to that point and you send them an estimate, and because their original estimate was smaller, you wrote an estimate and they raised it up. And they're going to say, hey, I finished my estimate, I sent it over to you, and I emailed it over to you. Take a look at it and let me know if everything meets with your approval. And if it does, get the check sent out to you. You heard that a lot, right? What are they doing? They're saying like, oh, well, your estimate was 20. I didn't quite come up to 20, but I did come up to 17. Just let me know if you agree with it and I'll send you a check, right? And so, you're stuck in this position like you need the additional money. It is additional money. I could take it now, but what if I just take it and accept that, then later something comes up and I can't go back. Here's my thing, guys, you don't have to take anything. Just say no. Well, here's what I would say is, I'm always wanting them to send the money, always, okay? So here's what I would say. And by the way, when they send the money, I'm gonna go over and pick it up. So always, like, I want the money in my hands, like there's the leverage right there. Money's passing hands and I have it, okay? If they said that, I would say, well, I'll tell you what, I can't agree to anything. Okay? Like, I actually have to vet that. We'll send it through our estimating staff. We'll review it, but I can't agree to anything. But I'll tell you what, go ahead and send the money. Send the money. Go ahead and send the money. Send it. Because I do agree that you at least owe that amount. That's called undisputed cash. Like in the legal world of things like policy and things, that's undisputed cash. That means that they agree already that these items are damaged and need paid for. But they're going to hold that money over your head and keep it from you until you agree to the other things that you don't agree with. Get out of here with that madness. So I would tell them every time, go ahead and send the money because we're going to go ahead and get started. Major hurricane damage. It's a USAA deal, which you'll recognize, right? And they had already been hired previously, the homeowner had already hired a roofer previously who did the roof, okay? The adjuster had already been there, had already written this estimate right here before my involvement. So I get involved, that's the first thing I'm doing, I see this estimate, go out, do the inspection, I can see that it's way off, as you guys have seen many times. There's missing tons of line items. I just want to briefly go through this estimate, and then I'll show you some photos of it. We have a dwelling, 31667. It's got some other structures also. They break it down separately there into coverage B. And then we have, I'll just kind of give you what the adjuster's summary is. So on the front, now one thing to note, as you'll see, it was hardy board siding in different kinds, different types. The roof was obvious, but there's a lot of the siding needed 100% replaced. But the insurance companies, you can see, just wanted to repair it and replace certain parts of it. And so they had front elevation here, fiber lap siding, just a little bit of that, 8.5 square feet, some gutters and downspout, a little bit of fascia. The shingle type panel siding is a different type, so only 2 sheets, basically 64 square, or 1 sheet. Clean with pressure spray, exterior paint, exterior door, wrap wood, garage door frame, right elevation, more of the same. I won't bore you with the details. Rear elevation, more of the same. A little bit of fascia, clean and paint. And then left elevation, house wrap, a little bit of soffit, clean and paint. The roof, as I said, was already done before our involvement, but I do want to take a look at it. Let's just for demonstration purposes. So this roof here, let's kind of go through it. Now, it's in Florida, so that last line item, re-nailing the sheathing, is kind of standard down there. All right. So just looking down this estimate, you've got remove the laminated, then replace with waste, right? Probably not enough waste, but that's what it is. And then you got R&R drip edge on number 24, additional high charge on number 45. That's removal of the high charge, 11 squares, and then replacement of the high charge. that should be with waste on the replacement item. Roofing felt 30 pound. That's also a Florida thing. It's not because of the steepness of the floor. Flashing pipe jack lead, and then R&R exhaust cap through roof. What's wrong with number 26, by the way?
Lead.
Can anybody tell? Well, it's lead, but can anybody tell me what's wrong with that? That item?
It's just the install.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. See, that's just the install. Yeah. That's not remove and replace. So we got to stop. We have to slow down. We're looking through here. We're like, that should stand out to us right away. They're not paying for the removal, right? Why are they not paying for the removal? Anyone? I know you guys know this answer.
They're trying to say it's a process of removing your shingles. You're going to tear it.
It's already included in the tear off, right? It's not already included in the tear off. Right? And if I can get the Xactimate to keep working, I'll show you that. But yeah, you're right. So it does not have the R&R in front of it. They're just saying they're not paying you to remove it. They're just paying you to replace it only, right? So that's a problem, major problem. But that's not the reason, because it's already included in the tear off. Because why did they put it on here there? It makes no sense, right? I mean, and that's how it breaks down. Like there's just somebody not paying attention. You can kind of see where the adjuster is evaluating the estimate, right? But the remove and the replace is missing. We have removal of the steep charge, replacement of the steep charge should be with waste, and then the ridge cap, continuous ridge vent, shingle over style, should be R&R. I know they're not going to want to give it to you on the removal portion of it, but let's see if it should let me do this at least. All right, if I go into just shingle, for example, or how about remove shingle? So if you click on this box right here, this window right here, then you can see the description for what that item includes, right? And there it is. So it says dump fees, hauling, disposal, and labor to remove shingles and felt. It does not say drip edge and pipe jacks and chimney flashing and drywall and siding. You know what I mean? Like they try to just throw everything in that catch-all, and it's no good. That's junk. That's not accurate, right? So I just wanted to point that out. Like in my estimates, what you're going to see, I'll include a footnote underneath that just has that exact word description. So I'm going to tell you what Xactware says about it. If you guys are going to rely on Xactware, it does not say that it includes all the removal of everything else, right? So if you want to do that, you'll see just a quick little thing here. You can it's an F9 note, right? So, or you could just double click on that little notepad part right there, and you can see my note. What I have is official Xactware description for this item below. There's other notes that I use, and you're going to see why. But that's how you get it, or that's where I would want to put it. And how you get it in there is just right click on the item by that notepad and go up to item, edit options, add item info note. See what I'm doing? Anybody want to stop there? Usually people are like, wait, what was that? What was that? It's not that big of a deal, right? But that's how I put it in there on any item to show the Xactware description, right?
Just go click on the notepad.
You can right click it to add it. Right click, and then go up to item edit options, and then add item info note. And when you click that, it's just going to drop it right there into the F9 footnote. All right.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
So is that something you pre-made?
No. I mean, you're going to see, I do have F9 notes for you guys in there, but it's not something that I pre-made. So other structures, wood fence, remove and replace. Now, one thing to note here too, we have this ornamental iron fencing here. Now, immediately tell me quickly, what's this mean right there? What's significant about that item? Non-recoverable depreciation. This is going to burn some people here if you don't know this, right? I mean, you should already know like the difference between ACV and RCV. Actual cash value is like you total out your car. That's a car. Think car. It's a lot of auto. But like if it's an ACV, you total out your car. They write you a check for what it was worth after it's depreciated, right? RCV is what they pay you, what it costs today at today's rate. That's replacement cost value, okay? But you got to realize that they may have a replacement cost value policy, but Most other structures is ACV value, okay? You need to know that. Like, so fencing, other structures, it's ACV. Contents is another one too, like personal property, the barbecue grill, that's usually ACV. But the good thing is, like the barbecue grill, if they write them a check for the barbecue grill, you can see just one little ding on there. They don't have to go buy a barbecue grill. Just like with a car, when they write you a check total out of a car, you don't have to go buy a new car, okay? So let me ask you a question. If someone has a roof claim and the insurance company comes out and totals it out and gives them their ACV payment up front like they do, because that's usually that first payment represents the actual cash value, then you have to bill for the depreciation at the end of the job, correct? So someone gets a roof claim and they get a check for like 20 grand, big roof, right? For the ACV only, after they've already taken out the deductible and everything, but the ACV. And the client says, you know what? I'm not doing my roof. I'm going on vacation. I'm going to pay off my old credit card bills and I'm going to go on this cruise, right? So, is that insurance fraud?
No. They just won't cover it.
No. Anyone else? All right, well, the no's took over right away, because usually it's, yeah, that's insurance fraud. There's half of them are like, yes, half are, yeah, I know you're here, you just didn't want to say anything. So like, but no, the answer is it's not insurance fraud. So you have to understand the technicality of this first. It's not insurance fraud. They could do whatever they want with that money. Now, would they get dropped? Probably, you know, so that's not a good idea to do. If there's a mortgage company involved who's named on the check, probably not as easy to do, but it happens a lot. As you guys know, you've seen it happen with some of your clients. They decided not to even do the work, you know. Definitely not a good idea to do that on a roof, okay? You could get dropped, you could have future claims, you know, not approved later on. Yeah, but you know, what if somebody was desperate, like, you know, somebody was sick, or well, who knows, right? And they're like, I have this, and I know I have other money, and they played a game there or whatever. But you just need to understand, that's not fraud. That's not fraud. What's fraud, it always comes down to lying to an insurance company. That's what it always comes down to. Fraud always comes down to deception and lying to an insurance company. So like, you know, where it's fraud is for you to go and say, hey, I did the job, now give me the depreciation. That's where the fraud comes in. Why am I talking about this? To advocate them not doing their work? Absolutely not, of course not, right? But we just first have to realize that when we see this right here, and why did we know it's non-recoverable? Well, how do we know that? The brackets, right? The pointy brackets, where the parentheses is typically replacement, or it's typically RCV, right? Recoverable. But this is non-recoverable. The bracket will indicate that. A lot of times they won't have the bracket on there and it's still non-recoverable. So don't rely on that solely, okay? But what does this mean? It means that the insurance company is going to pay out $1,307 for this, but this part is the client's portion. So it works like another deductible, you see? And so like you're coming at the client, and for you guys are going to see it more on clean and seal fence, right? Or clean and stain fence, like pressure clean and stain, hail damage. That's where you're going to see it. You'll see a lot of it on wind too, but you'll still see that on hail damage a lot. When you see it, you need to understand this, because if you don't, at the end of the job, you're going to be short by $1,798. And the client's not going to understand it either. Nobody's going to understand. And they're going to be like, I gave you all the payments. You're like, no, you're short. And you're arguing. And then somebody maybe calls the insurance company, hey, you shorted us money. And maybe, if anybody ever even figures out what the problem even was, it's probably the adjuster that says, oh, what were you short by? $1,798? That's the amount of the non-recoverable depreciation. That you're not short, you know, that's up to the client to pay for. At that point, at the end of the job like that, you're going to go to the client and be like, that's up to you to pay. And they're going to be like, you know, you should have told me that. You know what I mean? So you're going to take the hit. You're going to take the hit because you didn't know, you missed it, and you already did the work. You shouldn't bill the client for that. You're going to take the hit because that's the right thing to do. If you didn't know about it and advise them of that, right? So, but if you know about it, this is the best part to deal with this is preventative maintenance, okay? Like if you know about it, if you know that that's there, I would submit to you, it doesn't have to be a disadvantage, it can actually be an advantage, okay? Because when I see that, I'm going to the client and then I'm saying, hey, listen, this means that you have to pay this part in addition to your deductible if you want us to do the fence. Do you want us to do the fence? What are they going to say? No, I mean, especially if it's clean and pressure clean and stain a fence. Mr. Jones can handle that on his own one afternoon, and it's just going to be for the staining item. Anything with materials replacement, that's where they typically will assess that depreciation, right? So now if you know about it, Mr. Jones doesn't want to do the fence. Mr. Jones is still getting $1,307. So he's not doing the fence, but now he has $1,307 in cash. Does that make sense? So where this comes into play, deductibles. Because you can't waive a deductible, guys. You can't waive a deductible. And I know I won't call people out. I'm not going to make you raise your hands, because I would imagine there's a significant number of people here who waives deductibles. And I think the reason why you're doing it is because your competition is doing it. Like a lot of your competition, like clients like, yeah, but can you waive my deductible? I've had 5 people come over and said they could waive my deductible. I just think, now first, how does that even work? Because if it's a $10,000 roofing job, for example, and that's the RCV, the amount of the RCV, if it's a $10,000 roofing job and the insurance company, they're not going to pay you out $10,000, right? They're going to take off say you have a $1,000 deductible, so they're going to minus out the $1,000 and they're going to pay you $9,000, right? So for you to waive the deductible, then you put that on the thing, minus $1,000, and so our total was $9,000, like when you had to send in the bill to get the depreciation released, and then the insurance company's like, oh, minus $1,000, great. Then we only owe you $8,000, right? That's how it works. And so and you have to pay the first $1,000, right? The first amount. And so the only way around that then is to lie to the insurance company and tell them, oh no, we charged them 10. Wink, wink. That's insurance fraud. That's a felony in every state right there. You do not want to go there ever. That, like I said, lying to an insurance company. So it always comes down to lying to the insurance company. So waiving a deductible, and also, there's people, if we put a sign in your yard, then we'll take off this amount. If you actually did that, then actually they would have to pay you in full and you would have to pay them back on a separate agreement. And I used to do that. I did that with and you have to give me a video recorded testimonial, and you have to do, a separate, a sponsorship kind of thing. But I think that's even too close to the line. I don't think you have to do that, right? So what I would recommend is when you're doing your inspection, all the more reason to inspect every room, closet, and hallway, and every inch of every elevation on the outside, including all of the other property that's around, like patio furniture, barbecue grill I mentioned, like if they have a hot tub cover, those kinds of things. These are, if you're inspecting for hail, inspect everything. I've literally been in meetings with an adjuster and client, I can think of one specifically, because other structures is issued on a separate check from the dwelling, right? Sometimes it won't be held up by the mortgage company even though the dwelling is. So it's a smaller check. I remember one time where the guy just signed over that check to me for the deductible right in front of the adjuster. Why? Because there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing they can say about that. So what I call it creative financing. I would love to be able to help them with the deductible, but you can't waive it. So I'm saying to you, they should pay their deductible. If there's no way around it, they should pay their deductible. They knew about it when they chose their policy. You know what I mean? I don't think we need to let them out of their freaking, even if you had to, it's a really good job, and you agree to take it at the end. And even if you had to, make them make payments on it forever, you know what I mean? You have to make them pay their deductible. But there's a way where that earns referral business by you understanding how the nuances and creative financing. You don't want to do the fence, I just raised $1,307 to go towards the deductible. Does that make sense? So a couple things on this too. You have to know this because I got burned on this for a lot of money. It was a bed and breakfast project in Florida, big commercial job. And I had done all this framing, and the whole policy was an ACV policy, and I didn't know it. I just didn't even know it. I'm saying, man, I'm telling you, I know how common this is because I've had hundreds of contractor clients who are giving me their estimates and they don't know it. I know it's common, so just encourage you, know that it's an RCV or an ACV before getting started out. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars that I had to take the hit on because they were never going to pay it. Go for it.
I actually had this happen to me for the first time like a few weeks ago. Luckily, it was only for like $800 or $900.
Yeah.
But the best way to find out is just look at the line item totals at the very bottom, and it'll say non-recoverable depreciation, and then you know.
So we touched on already like the codes, like you have to know if they have OL coverage or not, right? So how to do that? I'll just tell you. I like when you're signing up a client and they're executing whatever documents you're having them execute. Then I would just add one step to have them send an email to their agent. Matthew, you could tell me if this will work or not. I know it has for my view, but like I would send an email to the agent, not the adjuster, the agent, and just ask them and copy the contractor. So copy you, right? So the homeowner or business owner is sending an email to the agent and copying you and telling the agent, I wanted to introduce you to my client or to my contractor that I've just hired to handle my hail damage claim, and I wanted to ask you some questions so that he could be better prepared to handle the repairs. Number one, I'm assuming that I have an RCV, replacement cost value policy. If not, please explain. Are there any portions of my policy that are not replacement cost value? And respond back to Chad so that he can get the information too, right? And number two, I'm assuming that I have ordinance and law coverage, OL coverage, okay? If not, please explain. And if I do, please let me know if there are any limitations and or caps, okay? Because they may have building code coverage. There's a lot on commercial jobs where I've seen they have building code coverage, but maybe up to $5,000 worth of building code coverage. You just need to know that number. Usually it's much more than that. I will say, for residential, if they have a mortgage on the property, then typically they're going to have RCV, replacement cost value, and also they're going to have OL coverage. So I want to point that out. Any other questions? Yeah, go for it.
So we've run into this more recently. We've been doing the crediting back the line items to pay deductibles forever, and then more recently.
Now, you can't credit it to them, though. They have to pay you the deductible in full.
Understood.
Yeah.
But like you said, you had somebody sign over the check to you for other structures to pay the deductible.
Right.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now when we're having adjusters that are short paying us on the back end by that amount, and even though we're not getting that money for,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I would fight that,
Yeah, well, we're trying, and they just play dumb. They're like, I don't owe for anything. They're not doing the work. I said, no, you still owe for the ACV. You owe, I'm telling these adjusters how to do their job.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm an idiot. I don't get it.
A couple of good, I'm glad you brought that up. So a couple of good fundamental pillars here, okay? And this is where I want to start getting a little crazy. Now, I believe that when you're hired to do a project, you're hired to do one specific thing. Whenever there's an insurance company involved, okay? The role that you have, this is very, very, very important. It may change everything for a lot of you. The job that you're hired to do, you are hired to perform all repairs that are prescribed by the insurance claim. That's your job. Let me say that again, because I'm going to say it a lot throughout the day. You're hired to perform all of the repairs that are prescribed by the claim, by the insurance claim, okay? For the total amount of the replacement cost value, the approved RCV. That's the way I would structure it, okay? But my job at all times, when meeting with an adjuster, they're like, hey, do you have an estimate? Well, I have one kind of started, the structure of one, but actually I was hired as the contractor to perform all the repairs that were prescribed by you. Okay, so I first have to know what it is that you're going to approve and be putting coverage on so that I know what to be writing an estimate on. And I'll tell you, and I do use Xactimate. I take it, it kind of opens up some things there, but you see, so I'm just here to get your instructions. I'm here to get your marching orders. So I'm not leading with an estimate ever. I'm not starting a supplement with an estimate, hardly ever. And I know a lot of you want to send an estimate into the insurance company because you've actually seen where estimates have gotten approved that way, and they've sent the supplements. I have too, hundreds and thousands of times, right? But one consistent that I've seen throughout the years, and right now in 2022, is if there are items missing from the estimate, like from the approval that you found, they're sending another adjuster, especially if there's a lot of items, okay? They might, if there's a few here and there, especially if it's just incidental items along with your job, they'll approve it, I get it, or they'll pay it from the desk. But like, they'll make you think like, send us the estimate. You know, we'll take a look at it. Like you're thinking they're just gonna approve it. They're not gonna approve it. They're going to send another adjuster, all right? Let them do that. Don't just rush to send them an estimate all the time, okay? Like instead, we could lead with a photo report, which I'm gonna show you on this job right here. But I just want you to think of that like, so I'm going with the flow, I'm going with the grain of the insurance company. I want to see first, like if you lead with a big giant estimate that has like one of my estimates you're going to see with all the extensive stuff on there, and what if they were never going to approve it in the first place? Like they're on the fence, they're 50-50 like whether or not to approve something. What if it's like a hardwood floor that goes underneath cabinets and stuff, and you know it, you know, and you're getting ready to slam it with that, and once they know where you were going with the backsplash and the plumbing fixture supply lines and the angle stop valves and all that stuff, then they're like, oh man, you know, I see he's going to do the whole floor. No, let's just deny it, you know. So sorry, go for it.
Okay, so we who may have thought it would be really good to go ahead and be proactive, do an estimate,
Yeah.
Xactimate, send that in to the adjuster and have him look at it first. You're suggesting that maybe we ought to wait and let them do their job.
That's right. That's right.
We can do ours, but don't submit it.
That's right. I want to see their
Use it
cards.
as a guide to check his.
I want to see.
Instead of him using our weapon against him.
Thank you. Yes. I want them to lead, right? I want them to show their cards first. I don't want to show my cards to them. There's really not a reason to do that, right? So I'm just there to get their instruction list, their marching orders. A couple other pillars. Very, very, very important here, okay? So the first one is that, like that's the role, okay? You mentioned that send the estimate into the adjuster. Which adjuster? I would submit to you that the field adjuster that comes out there originally is a pawn in my game. All right, has a lot of value. I've offended some adjusters on my YouTube channel with this one a lot. They bring it all out. They get so mad at me. I said, "Thank you, Mr. Adjuster. Thank you for commenting and for watching. And be sure to hit that bell." You know, I get it bad from adjusters constantly. So, yeah, like I want to go with. I forgot where I was at. What was the second pillar? I lost my train of thought for the first time. So, got it. The adjuster. Which adjuster? Sorry about that. Got tied up thinking about that adjuster. So, like, never, ever, ever, in my opinion, and I don't want to be too forceful, like shouting down on you, right? But I'll tell you, never, ever, ever send your estimate to the field adjuster. Now, I get it. There's caveat. There's exceptions. Like, there's going to be those times, and especially in certain areas where you're stuck with like a certain adjuster, a certain field adjuster. I've heard that a lot. You do a supplement, it goes back to that same field adjuster. But that's not the case most of the time. And most of the time, it's State Farm is prevalent, so I'll talk about State Farm. If State Farm is sending out an adjuster after a hailstorm, and you go and you try to contact that adjuster by the time you're hired, you may not be able to get a hold of them. And why is that? Because they're gone. They've been gone. Their job's been done, okay? Like they probably won't even respond back to you. They've already been paid. They've been paid, guys. So what does that mean? Like, when an estimate is generated and approved by any insurance company, just all of them, when a payment goes out, that's when the adjuster earns their money. Not all, you have like staff salaried, I get it. I'm talking about the independent adjusters that get the assignment and go out. When that payment is issued, that's when they get their money. So let the payment be issued. Let them get their money. don't file a supplement before the adjuster gets paid. Just my take, okay? And by the way, are they gonna, so you've heard this, and maybe you did send them an estimate, or maybe you got to that point and you sent them an estimate, and because their original estimate was smaller, you wrote an estimate and they raised it up. And they're gonna say, hey, I finished my estimate, I sent it over to you, and it's, I emailed it over to you. Take a look at it and let me know if everything meets with your approval, and if it does, get the check sent out to you. You heard that a lot, right? What are they doing? They're saying like, oh, your estimate was 20. I didn't quite come up to 20, but I did come up to 17. Just let me know if you agree with it and I'll send you a check, right? And so, you're stuck in this position like you need the additional money. It is additional money. I can take it now, but what if I just take it and accept that, then later something comes up and I can't go back. Here's my thing, guys, you don't have to take anything. Just say no. Well, here's what I would say is, I'm always wanting them to send the money, always, okay? So here's what I would say. And by the way, when they send the money, I'm gonna go over and pick it up. So always, like, I want the money in my hands, like there's the leverage right there. The money's passing hands and I have it, okay? But always, I want to let them send out the money. So a lot of times they would say, if they said that, I would say, well, I'll tell you what, I can't agree to anything. I can't agree to anything, okay? Like, I actually have to vet that. We'll send it through our estimating staff. We'll review it, but I can't agree to anything. But I'll tell you what, go ahead and send the money. Send the money. Go ahead and send the money. Send it. Because I do agree that you at least owe that amount. That's called undisputed cash. Like in the legal world of things like policy and things, that's undisputed cash. That means that they agree already that these items are damaged and need paid for. But they're going to hold that money over your head and keep it from you until you agree to the other things that you don't agree with. Get out of here with that madness. You know what I mean? So I would tell them every time, go ahead and send the money, because we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get started. And so here's the other thing is, like, I would always supplement before the build, guys. Before the build. Before. Not after. Unless you're doing mitigation. Then you have no choice, right? But after, not after. That's a sure way to stab yourself. It's really going to hurt yourself with that one. Now, there used to be a time back in the day where that's what we did, and it was the best thing to do. You would have the leverage. They would say, the first thing they would say, has work already been completed? And if you said yes, then you had the leverage on your side, right? But now, it's just a way to really shoot yourself in the foot if you're not supplementing before the build. So let me explain. If we supplement before you go and build, okay, and we find out all that needs to be done on this job, and we try to bring that attention, all the documentation and the proof, and translate it into an estimate, and we bring it to the adjuster, okay? And let's say, of course, they're always going to try to push us back down. They're always, no matter what you do on your estimate, they're always going to try to push you back down. That's why I think you need to do the best estimate possible and collect absolutely every line item that should be on there, within reason. But so you don't have to stretch for excessive line items that people use. You just need to get the accurate line items. The way to do that is to do a better inspection, right? But I would say by supplementing before the build, you're going to identify what the differences actually are. You're going to find out where you guys are different. And then during the build, okay, you can prove that those items actually are necessary with documentation and proof. Because the adjuster's not coming out to the job site to build it with you. You are. So no one has the advantage over you. No one is going to spend more time than the contractor at the job site. You see, that's why I always say the contractor has the power. I just got chewed out on YouTube this two days ago by a PA and by an insurance adjuster for saying that very term. But I believe it. I believe it. So you want to supplement before the build, okay? And when you send your estimate in, when you do get to that point, don't give it to the field adjuster, especially not the first one. Now, if they send a re-inspect and you're dealing with the second guy or gal, then absolutely, there's ways to do. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that now. Questions though?
What I've been having more success with is instead of doing, like, not really sending too many supplements per se, but like I'm sending them what my estimate would be. So especially since Liberty Mutual has gone to Symbility, which is absolute garbage. Like every Symbility estimate, I'm rerunning.
We're gonna do one of those. Yeah.
And instead of I'm having success with that. Instead of doing supplements, just send them a full new estimate for them to look at. This is what you got. Instead of me saying, well, you missed this, and this.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Totally. You're going to see my approach. Same thing. What he's saying is, instead of sending them a list of your missing items that they're missing, go ahead and send them a full estimate. For like start from scratch, like from the beginning. That's what I do too. I highly agree with that. All right. So let me go ahead and demonstrate how this actually plays out. All right. So we're back to this original estimate. There's not a lot left on here. A single axle dump truck, and we'll get to the end here. And it was a total of, remember, the roof had already been done by another contractor. I didn't have anything to do with that. 36,602 was the total on this. Okay, so this is a perfect example. I saw the damage that was out there, and I realized that if I send them an estimate, like, they're going to send an adjuster out. There's no doubt about that, right? So why send them an estimate now when I could, like, in other words, I'm not going to get an estimate approved at the inside. And where would I send it, by the way? Like State Farm, for example. State Farm Fire Claims at statefarm.com with the subject line, no dashes. So, Allstate, you've got claims.allstate. Like, you guys should already have this information. USAA, this particular one, you can call them and they send you a special email that every time you reply to that email, it goes right into the claim file, right? But that's what I'm talking about, going to the inside and not dealing with the outside. Well, a couple of things one little quick thing about State Farm. I don't know what the 2-digit team is in this area, but it doesn't really matter. You just call the 800 number that's on their cover letter of the estimate paperwork, call that number, and when you get to a certain point, it'll ask you for your 2-digit team number, and just hit team 66, all right? You put that in there, they may ask you for the claim number too, but you should be able to get through with just team 66. Almost all the time, that's going to get you right through to a desk adjuster specifically, which we confirmed with the desk adjuster State Farm lady last week. So whoever answers is a desk adjuster, right? You're not talking to a customer service representative. Like, I think that's another part of the problem that people mess up with. Don't call the original field adjuster, send it to the inside, okay? All right, now, so I went out, inspected it, and I decided that the best thing to do would be to do a photo report. So as you can see, it's on Xactimate. What I'm doing is I am exporting my estimate without the items, the estimate items. So it's just the cover letter and the images at the end, right? And that's it. So it looks official, right? And I have this little opening statement about building codes, O&P, etc., which you guys can see in all my files. All right, so now I'm just sending them a photo report just to show them all the missing items. They can see by a photo report. That's going to trigger, if you send them an estimate, that's going to trigger an adjuster coming out. But if you can also trigger that with a photo report, it's like, in other words, if I can't get through to the end of this without an adjuster coming back out, let's get it on now. Why waste time? Let's just go ahead and sooner rather than later, right? So I sent them a photo report. They can see that there's a lot of missing items on this. You can see this is 172 pages with 2 photos per page, right? But you can start to see it more and more as it goes down. It's just kind of ripped apart, through here, how well you can see it. I won't bore you with all the details, right? But I usually do a drone inspection first. Those the higher up shots, and then I walk around. And I think, you know what? Every job site is like a crime scene that has to be investigated. That's the way I look at it, like a CSI crime scene. So everything has to be dusted for prints. So if you're not checking every room, closet, and hallway, every inch of every elevation, of course, depending on what type of claim it is, if it's a dishwasher leak, I think you have enough common sense to know what I'm talking about there. But like every inch, every window, every piece of trim, every piece of fascia, soffit, everything's got to be checked off. Like, everything's got to be dusted for prints. It's a crime scene that has to be investigated. And when I show up, by the way, I kind of come across like that too. There's another tip for you. And I'm telling you, this is a tip. When you see adjusters that come out to job sites, they're getting more high tech, right? Like they have these little gadgets they like to show off. They latch themselves to the ridge, you know. They got their cougar paws, they got their flat little cameras that they whip out, and they got it around their neck, and laser pointers, you know, high tech, you know, cool looking. They got everything, you know, lot tool belt with stuff. This is what I want to do. When I show up, I want to be way more extreme than any adjuster. So like when I show up, I have like the big giant tool belt on, biggest one I can find, all right? Like mine's bigger than yours is. Mine's better than yours is, you know? Like we're back to childhood, you know? I have this big giant camera. I use a Canon T6i Rebel, and I've used it for years. They have a newer version now. You can get one for like, you know, a few $100, but it's big and bulky, and I got it around my neck, you know? But in my tool belt, I got anything I can stuff in there, you know? I got laser measures, the biggest tape measure you can find. I inspect the room closets in the hallway with a tiny mag light, but I also have the big giant mag light, you know, and I got like drone cases and bags and camera bags and stuff, kind of like I showed up here, but I show up and I'm like, I gotta like squeeze through the door so I don't bang into it, you know. I set stuff down to meet them, but extreme, right? And on commercial jobs, hard hat, safety vest, the whole 9 yards, man. Like you can get, you know, harnesses and really get nuts with it. Now, what did I just do there? Like if you show up for an inspection with a client, listen, what other contractor's ever gonna do that? Like what other contractor's ever gonna show up like that, spend 2 to 3 hours inspecting every room, closet, and hallway, go around and do you see what I mean? Now you're probably thinking like, well, I can't do my 5 appointments per day that way though. No, you can't. You'd have to slow it way down, but your jobs are gonna go way more profitable all of a sudden. Way more profitable. And your closing ratio is gonna go through the roof because they're never gonna hire anybody else if you do this right. And then, so when the adjuster comes, same thing. So when you show up to see the adjuster, again, mine's bigger than like you got the little flat camera, check mine out, buddy. You know what I mean? But listen, another thing though, my tone is not one of controversy. You know, I'm not doing that at all. Like people picture, like, you're out there giving them hell, right? You wrestle them down. They go, no, not at all, man, not at all. Like I'm very humble. I like to play it off like I don't even know what I'm doing. Obviously, why else would I be dressed like this? You know, this big huge tool belt. He's like, you know, he must be new. I kind of play that up like, you know, I was hired as the contractor to perform all repairs that were prescribed by you. You know, I'm just showing up to find out what it is that you're going to have me do. You know, and that's why I have all this so I can take pictures and you know what I mean. And I wouldn't tell them something not true though, because that would be insurance fraud. Like if they ask me how you doing today, if I'm not good, I'm not telling them I'm doing good. I take it that literal, you know. But that's just a couple things there. I think you get it, right? It's a subliminal, the subconscious message that it does send. It goes a long way. Just try it. Just try it and see what happens. You know, like see what happens to your closing ratio. And I learned that back in. I can't take all the credit for that. I learned that I worked for this company called ABC Contractors back in one of the companies I worked for in Orlando. They were huge. I don't know what they're doing now. They do a lot of commercial work too. But we showed up to a sales meeting. There's like 150 sales reps in the meeting, you know, just to give you an idea. And I'll never forget, I don't even remember the guy's name, but I remember he came out and he sold me on that. Like it wasn't like mine, it was different. You know, he's like, when you show up, you want to have a tool belt on. Just that was revolutionary. You know, if you showed up in Florida with a tool belt of any kind. But I remember we had to measure our own stuff. So we had one of those big measuring tape things with the handle, you know, and he tied a tennis ball at the end of it, you know. That would be silly now. Now we use drones, you know. Let's get the drone out. That'll impress them in the same way now. But just do that and see where it goes for you. But I'm there to get their marching list, see what they're willing to approve, and then show them what I found. Oh, just one more room. I love dragging adjusters throughout every house. If you ask them to go into this room with you, they'll go. Especially if the client's behind it, you know. If you ask them to go inspect the attic with you, but that's another big one. Attic. Because like decking, like that's how you get the decking bought, inspect the attic, you know. Listen, water-soaked decking, water-saturated underlayment, non-nailable sheathing. A lot of people hear about the non-nailable sheathing, but what about all those other ones? We'll get into those with the building code, right? All right, so I've had a lot of adjusters. If you ask them to go up there in the attic or the crawl space, they're going to do it. I had one guy took all day. He had to leave and go do another inspection and come back. I took that as a compliment. Anthony Del Medico's house. Got him a big approval on that one. All right, so moving through this is the rest of it. I'll just kind of fly through here.